Found a lot of comments asking how I built my working movie theater in Fortnite, so today I have a tutorial on it. The first thing you need to do is place down a sequencer, set the length, width, and height to 0.5, and looping to infinite. The tempo can be whatever you want, but the faster it is, the faster your movie will be. For the channel settings, set start sequencer on 97 and stop on 98. Next, place a trigger in the sequencer path that transmits on 99. Place a mutator zone down towards the center of the map. All of your movie frames are going to have to fit inside of this mutator zone. Set the width, depth, and height to 100, allow weapon fire to yes, enable that game start to no, and enable when receiving from 99, and disable and transmit on 100. Now place down a trigger. Set transmit to channel 1, trigger to 100, disable to channel 1, and enable to 10. Copy this trigger, but this time set transmit every X triggers to 2. Also, change both channel 1s to channel 2s. Copy it again and change transmit every X triggers to 3 and both channel 2s to channel 3s. Keep continuing this pattern. The more triggers you place down, the more movie frames you can have. So I'm stopping at the 10th trigger, but you could keep going. If you were to place down more triggers though, the enable on channel 10 would have to be changed to whatever channel your final trigger is on. On the final trigger, remove the enable and disable channels. Now, start a new row of triggers. Set the trigger when receiving from to whatever channel your last trigger was on. For me, that's 10. Set transmit and disable to channel 11, or whatever your next open channel is, and enable to 98. Copy the trigger, set transmit every X triggers to 2, and then change the channel 11s to channel 12s. Then, basically just do the same thing you did last time, incrementing those 3 settings for each new trigger. Like last time, the more triggers you place, the more movie frames you can have. When you get to your final trigger, once again, remove the enable and disable channels. So as you can see, there are 10 triggers in the front row and 10 triggers in the back row. Multiplying those together equals 100, so I can build up to 100 movie frames. If I were to do 5 triggers in the front and 15 triggers in the back, that would be 75 frames. It's best for both rows to have the same amount of triggers though, because that will yield the highest amount of frames for the least amount of triggers. If everything's set up right, if you start game and hit the sequencer, you should see something like this. Next, build the frame of the movie screen. Then, get the square objective device. Set health to indestructible, hide health bar to always, invisible during games to off. Resize and rotate it and bring it to the movie screen. This is the platform where players will watch the movie from, so try to center it. Place another objective device behind it. This one will force the players into first person. Stand on the platform to make sure it's centered. Now, get a teleporter and face it towards the screen. Set the teleporter group and teleporter target group to none. Visible, play visual effects, play sound effects, and conserve momentum to no, base player and teleporter direction to yes. For the channel settings, set teleport to when receiving from channel 1, disable when receiving from channel 11, and enable when receiving from channel 97. Place the teleporter device centered on the objective device towards the back. Once you've got all of that, multi-select everything and place it down 10 times. Now, go to the second teleporter and change teleport to when receiving from to channel 2, then the third teleporter to channel 3, and so on. Now, select everything again and create a new layer of frames. On the new layer, change all of the teleporters to enable when receiving from 11, disable when receiving from 12, and enabled on game phase to none. To make things faster, I'm going to copy all the screens up 8 more times, so I have all 100 frames set. Next, copy up all the objective devices and teleporters again, and change channels 11 and 12 to 12 and 13. Basically, just keep doing this process, copying up the teleporters and objective devices and incrementing the channels. So after a while, I've finished the teleporters in the top layer. I'm going to use the finals teleporter to return the player to the ground, so just delete the frame and then copy the teleporter down to the ground. Set the teleporter on the ground to transmit on channel 98. This is where the player will be taken back to after they finish the movie. Place a button down and set it to transmit on channel 97. When the player presses this button, they'll be taken to the movie. If you start game and press the button, everything should work except the movie frames will be empty, of course. You can even press the button and watch the movie again without anything breaking. The final step is to build what's inside of the frames, which will probably take the longest. To make things easier, you can copy and paste each frame forward so you don't have to rebuild everything each time. So here's a little movie I built that doesn't use all 100 frames. If you want to see a movie that does use over 100 frames though,